Good afternoon, ladies. I hate to interrupt good conversation. I'm JJ Davenport. It's so good to see you here. And I am thrilled to be at the Connect conference again. I was thinking this morning, I don't live here, so I don't live close by. And so we were staying at the hotel, and I was thinking this morning, just kind of going through things, as you do through the day. And I thought, I think I wore this dress last year. And so for people that just see you one time a year, I apologize if I did. And I was not going to be vain enough to look up pictures and see if I actually did, because it was what it was at this point, but I actually think it was. I think I did. And I am a little, did I really? Did I? Or do you know? Okay. Just being kind. I may have. It's fine. It's fine. Who cares? But I do a little bit get nervous about long skirts. Because I'll tell you, I had an incident, and I've told this story before, but I kind of want to hear it again. So when our youngest born daughter, who is like 23 now, she was difficult in church. You don't get two alike. So the first one was just an easy child, right? And the second one was so not easy. And I always, if we're standing up to sing, we're all standing up. If we're sitting down, we're all seated, that kind of thing. And so we were standing up to sing the invitation song. And she was engaged in coloring or something. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let her be. I'm just going to stay, which was my first mistake. And so I'm singing, and my husband's a youth minister at this time, so we're on the third row, right? And I feel something a little bit weird in my skirt, but it was a long skirt, and sometimes, the air comes on and it swishes or whatever. And then I start to think, I should check that. So about the second verse, I put my hand down there, and that little peanut has gotten under my skirt and is standing there under my skirt. Like, how do you even think to do that? Like, why would you want to do that? And so there I am thinking, how am I going to get her out of this? Like, I can't pull my skirt up. Like, I can't, what do I do? And I think I finally, because we're nearing the end of the song, and I'm thinking, how in the world is this going to work out? We're going to sit back down. Somebody came forward, which, it would have been fine if no one did, but nope, somebody needed Jesus that day. So I ended up just taking her head in my hand and just pushing her down to the ground so I could sit down. But I was just thinking, every time I put on a long skirt and have to stand in front of people, I do think about that. But I love the theme of that, of this whole conference, one, because it's just so simple, right? It's just so simple. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. And there's a story of a preacher, and as far as I know, this is a true story because I've heard it a lot of times from different people, so that doesn't necessarily make it true, does it? But I've heard it a lot, and he and his lawyer friend were flying, and they were in the single-engine Cessna plane. They were flying a very small plane with a pilot that they knew, they were friends with. And there was some sort of medical episode, and the pilot passes out. And neither one of those men knew how to fly the plane. And they were able to radio someone, and they said, listen, this is what's happened. And we were flying from here to here. What do we do? And so the man started talking him through, let me tell you how to take the controls, and let me tell you what's what, and I'm going to get a hold of a tower that's going to find you. And so he did. And so when the man on the tower started speaking with him, he said, you have to listen to my voice. You have to listen to me. I can see you. I know where you are. And if you listen to me, I will get you there safely. Don't listen to anything else. And they had to fly through a storm. They had to fly through scary, scary situations. And of course, it's just terrifying. And he said, well, when you get to the runway, you're going to see lights, and you're going to see a cross at the end of the lights. And you're going to know that you're home. He said, but you've got to listen to my voice. And he did. And he flew through all kinds of things that just were unthinkable. And they landed safely and lived to tell the story. And we've got a lot of voices out there, don't we? We've got a lot of voices saying, this is right. I'm right. Come over here. This is fun. Listen to me. And it doesn't stop when you're beyond teenage years. Sometimes we tell young people, oh, be so careful, who you're around. We need to as well though, right? We need to be careful. I think I'm 53, but I'm not to the point yet where I'm beyond being influenced by other people. I still have to be so careful about that, and still have to be so careful with who I'm surrounding and recognize our relationships. And there's a lot of people that are talking to us, but who are we listening to? Because there's one voice that's important. It's kind of like I have some friends. Can I walk? I can walk, can I? Oh, look at that. I have some friends that, I have one key on my keychain and a fob for my car, just because I like things really simple. And I have friends, though, that have multiple, hundreds of keys on their keychain, it feels like, and then all these little keychains. I even saw, and you can look it up on Etsy, I even saw one of my friends has got spices on her keychain. Yeah, it's like a little tiny thing. It's so cute. It's like a little tiny thing of paprika. I guess she just needs that. Or little spices that you can get off Etsy and put them on your keychain. But imagine I said, okay, one of these keys is going to work and you've got to figure it out. That's tough, right? It matters what you use, right? You can't just use any key. It matters. In life, we often think, anything's going to do, and that's not the truth. Spiritually, God has always worked through one way, one plan, one Savior, one people. And so today we're going to look at the power of one church. It belongs to Jesus completely. His voice is the only one that we should listen to. Matthew 16:18 says, upon this rock I will build my church. He says, I will build. He's the builder. He says, my church, it belongs to him. Not churches, plural, church, singular. We're building a house right now, and we're still married. But it's actually fun, but there's lots of decisions. How many of y'all have built a house ever? Yeah. And you're still married. No, that's something you've got to add to it, because it's tough. A lot of decisions have to be made. And some of you probably have husbands that don't have opinions about things. I don't have a husband that doesn't have opinions about things, so he needs to chime in and weigh in like he knows about design or something like that. But, when you're building a house, you make a lot of choices. You design it, you set the rules, you set the parameters, you set a purpose for that. You don't walk into somebody else's house and rearrange the furniture. Unless you're my good friend Debbie Doopy, because sometimes I ask her to come over and redo things, and she loves it, and she's really good at it. Anyway, but, the church is not man-made. The church is Jesus designed, and we don't get to redesign it. It doesn't, just come to fit what kind of fits really well into our schedule, right? Some things we can fit into our schedule, and we're like, okay, that's great. We don't get to choose about the way church is because it's convenient for us. We follow Christ's pattern, not culture's pattern. It is not there for our convenience. It's there for God and for our learning. Jesus paid for it, the church. Acts 20:28 says, the church of God, which he had purchased with his own blood. The church is bought. It's not like a casual thing that happened. You don't join the church casually. The price was money. The price was not money. It was blood. And that makes it precious and sacred. Can you think of the most expensive thing that you own? I don't know this is the most expensive thing, but we have my sisters and I have my grandmother's pearls, and they were real pearls. And I remember her growing up I don't remember her growing up, but I remember her talking about growing up during the Depression, right? And so as she became older, there were very few things that she wanted, but one year she asked my grandfather for pearls, for real pearls, and he got them for her, and they're gorgeous. I think one of my sisters wore them at her wedding, and so we have them now that she's passed and my mom has passed, and it's just precious. She was my favorite person on the planet, and it just makes me think of her whenever I see them or I'm around. It's just precious. It is a thing, though, isn't it? It is a thing. Jesus didn't pay with gold or silver. He paid for the church with his life. And we should never treat the church lightly. You don't treat something casually that costs a lot, right? When I have possession of those pearls, when my sisters and I agree that it's okay for me to have them for an event or whatever, I treat those things with care. I take such good care of them. I have them put away. I don't let my 4-year-old, my 6-year-old know where they are. It's really precious, and we treat it differently. Number next, Jesus is the head of the church. Colossians 1:18 says, and he is the head of the body, the church. The head directs the body. We all know this. Without the head, the body cannot function. Jesus is the only authority, and you're going to have lots of people telling you differently that this is an authority, or this is a really good writer, and this is an authority, and this is No, Jesus is the authority. He is the author of salvation. That means he designed it. He came up with the plan. He authored it. So what happens if your body stops listening to your head? Chaos, right? Dysfunction, no direction. We don't follow trends or opinions in the church or feelings. We follow Christ alone. The church, which is his body, is a scripture in Ephesians 1:22-23. It is part of Christ Jesus' body. The church is not a building, it is a body. Christ is the head, we're the members, every part matters, but we are still one body. And so just as we have bodies and have many different parts and different roles, but we still have just one body. I play piano, and piano's always been my first instrument and my instrument of choice, actually, and I love it. And sometimes you get to a point where you've got muscle memory. I can talk, I could read a book and play the piano and play a piece. Sometimes after you practice a really long time, and I'm sure it's that way with any instrument, you get to a point where it just goes on automatically. But I can't do that without my hands, right? Every part of your body is important. Unity matters in the church. Every member has a purpose, and we must stay connected to Christ. There's one builder, which is Jesus, one price, which is his blood, one head, which is Christ, and one body, which is the church. So this is the part of the lesson I really wanted to get to, because I feel like you've probably heard all of that, right? Because that's just kind of what we're talking about. But I want to talk to you about the power of just being one person, because that's really where I want to come from for this. I teach chorus, and sometimes I'll have a student, many times, that's in the chorus that just decides, you know what, my voice isn't important. I don't need to sing. They don't need me. I'm sitting by somebody really, really strong. I'm sitting by a really strong alto. I'm not needed. And I always try to find that person. And I always try to tell them that they're important. They need to sing as well. And sometimes we feel like that, don't we? I'm surrounded by some really strong people. I'm surrounded by some leaders. Look at what these people can do. This woman can sew. This woman can cook. This woman can teach Bible classes, and I can't do any of that. I'm not really needed. I just need to sit back. And that's not how this works. We're all in this together. We're unified. You've got different gifts and different talents, but we're one body, right? And we all are needed. So one person can make such a huge difference. Some of you don't think you matter, but you do. Your words matter. Your words matter a lot. I was going into, I don't know, no, I actually wasn't. I was going through a parking lot with, like, what is that? Like a strip mall? Don't we call them strip malls anymore? I don't know. Anyway, a lot of different stores. And I was just driving through there, and I felt so compelled towards this blue car. I know this is random. And I had been praying, God, how can you use me today? I don't feel like I've been used. I haven't really reached out to anybody. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, how can you use me? And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to park by this blue car and whatever. And then I thought, oh, there's Ulta right there. I'm going to go into Ulta because I needed something from Ulta. And as sure as I got out of my car, this lady gets out of her car, this blue car. And I thought, I'm just going to say something nice to her, just be kind. And I said, I love the color of your car. It was like this electric blue. It was really pretty. I love that. That is just striking and such a beautiful color. And she looked at me and she said, nobody has been nice to me today. You're the only person that's been nice to me today. Was it hard for me? Cost me anything? No. And I got to talk to her a little bit and find out about her a little bit. Plant seeds, plant seeds. I prayed that this morning. God, how are you going to use me? You know that old hymn, Lead Me to Some Soul Today? Who knows that? Yeah, it's old, isn't it? It's okay. So I had that going through my head this morning, and I was like, how are you going to use me? I'm not from this city. I don't go to church here at Creve Hall. I'm from Alabama. I love this place. I love people here. But how are you going to use me, God? And I, said, I'm here. What can I do? How can you use me? And we have a hotel breakfast. There's breakfast at the hotel. And for whatever reason, my husband said, we're not going to eat breakfast at the hotel. We're going to First Watch. Do y'all know what First Watch is? I know. It's so good. It's so good. And we don't have one in Alabama. There's one where we go to the beach. There's one there, and we always try to frequent that. But it's just really good. And I said, I'm game. Let's go. And so we go to First Watch. And, I'm thinking in my head, okay, how can I be used? Use me, whatever. I don't know how you're going to use me, God, but use me. And so our little waitress, her name was Grace. Her name is Grace. And I said what I say to all the waitresses every time we go out to eat. I said very quietly after we ordered, I said, we're going to pray before we eat. And if you have anything that you want me to pray for, that we would be happy to pray for that as well. And so I said that to her very quietly because I never want to embarrass anybody. And I don't want to get embarrassed if they say no, go kick a rock or whatever, which no one's ever said that, but if they did. And so she stared at me and she said, why did you say that? And I said, it's what we do. I said, we're just going to pray before every meal. If you have something, just let us know. And she said, I have chills. She said, I've got to tell you this. I am starting a new job Monday, so pray about that. But she said, I just started reading the Bible. Like just today, started reading the Bible. And I thought, where am I going to go with this? And then you come in here and you say that? And so she went off and did things, and then she came back. And she said, yes, I want you to pray for this, and told us some other things. And I said, listen, we're here speaking at this church down the road, Creve Hall, because First Watch is close by, isn't it? It's like on this road, isn't it? Or so, I don't know. It's close. It felt close. And so I said, and she goes, I know where that is. I know where that is. And she said, get me the times of that. Her name is Grace. Does anybody go to Creve Hall that's in this room? Okay, her name is Grace. And she's adorable. And she just started reading her Bible. And so please look for her Sunday because I gave her all the information, wrote it down on a card, gave her my phone number, and I said, these people will love you and help you as you're reading your Bible. Today that happened, this morning. One person is so important. It's so important that you don't think, well, I sinned, in 1985, so I'm not going to go lead somebody. No, we're all sinners. We're all sinners. That's what makes it beautiful in a sense. I'm not going to go up to Grace, who's filled with tattoos, and who knows what kind of past she's had. I don't know. I'm not going to go up to her and say, I'm not a sinner. You're in a different category than I am. No, we're all sinners, and that's so important to remember when we're reaching out. Our job is to seek and save the lost. That's it. And through my short life, I have come up with some things that I think will help us be unified and become one, because that's my role. I want to seek and save the lost, right? That's why we're here. We do lots of other things. I direct show choir. That's what we're doing right now, as a matter of fact, at school. I direct all kinds of plays and things like that. That's frou-frou stuff. What's the important thing? Lead people to God, right? Lead them to Christ. And sometimes you're not taking them all the way to the baptistry. Sometimes you're just planting seeds, and that's okay too. Don't get discouraged by that. When our youngest was about 3, we had one of those refrigerators that had like the long doors, and I guess I kept chocolate syrup at the very bottom. And one day I noticed that door was open, and I said, Emma? And she looked around and she had that Hershey's bottle of chocolate syrup turned up, and she took it out of her mouth and she said, "It's good." With a coated throat of chocolate, And sometimes, though, our words are not coated with chocolate and sweet. And our words have got to be so kind. We've got to remember when people bring the order out and it's wrong, what's my role? What's my role? Your role is to seek and save the lost, and we've got to be kind. And we've got, and I always know, I'm just preaching to myself as well, but we can't leave people with a bad taste in their mouth about Christianity, about who we are, right? We've got to be so kind. I read a study that 12 minutes, just as personal growth, 12 minutes of focused prayer every day for 8 weeks produces enough positive change in the brain that it can be measured in a brain scan. The results of reading Bible 4 times a week, we're daily Bible readers, I know, but if you just read 4 times a week, this was measured, the feelings of loneliness dropped 40%, anger drops 33%, bitterness in relationships dropped 40%, alcoholism dropped 57%, feeling spiritually stagnant drops 60%. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says we are to constantly be transformed, right? We're being transformed. We're being made better, made new. I need that. Today is the last day to register for Transform Ladies Conference. And I put it in the title of that conference because it's so important. And as women, are we not constantly being transformed? Went from a little girl to a young woman at a college age, and then a young lady, and maybe a married lady, and possibly a mother, and then we're sisters, and we're cousins, and we're aunts, and we take on all these new roles, right? Grandmother, all of these new roles that we have to navigate and figure out. We are constantly being transformed. And so we constantly have to grow with that. To be fully made over and to be made aware so that we can be one and all unified, I think we need to do some things. We need to give. We need to give. Give our time. Give your time. Volunteer. Give time. I think, especially in the States, we want to transfer our time for money, don't we? That's how I was raised, right? Transfer time for money. Just give your time. Don't expect anything. Just give your time. Who needs you? What needs to happen? And then give your money, because God can't bless what he does not have. He cannot bless it if he does not have it, right? When, I'm watching the time here, because I really want to tell the story. Okay, yeah. So when we were first married, I was in college, and we lived in a really expensive condo on the ocean. But, you learn lessons, right? This was 35 years ago. And so we didn't have a lot of money. And one month, I said, listen, we're going to have more months than we have money. That's the way it's going to work out. I said, we've got these bills paid, and we were already eating cheese food. We weren't even eating like real cheese. Some of y'all never had to eat cheese food, right? I can tell. All right, and so it was a lot of spaghetti. But I said, what do we do, Larry? And he said, well, just give more on Sunday. And I was like, oh, you didn't hear me. We're not going to make it. Like, we don't have enough for the end of the month, for what's coming up. And he's like, yeah, put some more in the collection plate. Like, flippantly almost. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. And he said, it's 100% how this works. And I was like, okay. So I very reluctantly and almost sarcastically gave more money, which I think, to be honest, was maybe $5 more than we normally gave on Sunday. Guess what happened on Monday? Larry gets a call from his CO. He's in the Navy Reserve. And if you know anything about military people, you know that they know their pay schedule. They know it. They know, what's coming up, what bonuses, everything. It's a big deal, and it's important. And it's good for you to keep up with. They teach you to. And he said, hey, you've got a bonus. And Larry said, no, I'm not up for a bonus. He's like, yeah, we got a random bonus directly deposited that was so much exceedingly more than I gave. Other things happened that week that were just only from God. God cannot bless what he does not have. He cannot bless it if he does not have it. Give your talents, whatever it is. I knew a little lady who would crochet little pot holders, and that's all she could do just about. And she would crochet pot holders, and she'd give them away, or she'd give them for people to sell for mission work and things like that. Whatever it is, give your talents. Use those. Number 2, we need to be grateful. My little tagline is grateful. What is my tagline? Gratitude grows godliness. I think we're more godly if we're gracious, if we say thank you, right? We teach our little kids that, right? Say thank you. Say yes, ma'am. All those kind of things. Gratitude is so important. Jesus was grateful, and we see that many times. We see it in John 6:11. And, I've heard it said, and I know some people really struggle with anxiety, but I've heard it said that it's very difficult to be grateful, thankful, and anxious at the same time, because it uses the same side of the brain. So it's when my girls were growing up and they were so upset about something, we'd start listing things that they're grateful for. What are you happy about? What do you like? What has gone right today, right? It's hard to be both at the same time. Number 3, we need to be sorry. Own up. Apologize. One of the main reasons that we are still married after 35 years is that if it doesn't really matter, I try to be the first one to say I'm sorry, and I think Larry does too. And most of the time when you have little spats or arguments, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if the toilet paper goes over the top or comes out from the bottom. It does, but it's over the top, right?
Yes.
Just common sense. I mean, every single hotel we've ever been to for the last 35 years has had the toilet paper. But I do know a couple of times that Larry has actually switched it before I went in there. But it's fine. But if it doesn't really matter, be the first to say you're sorry. If it's going to save a relationship, and it's not about saying I was wrong, it's about putting the relationship before being right. Your relationship with me is more important than me being right. Right? And there's going to be people that never apologize. We'll get into that in a second. But say you're sorry. Own up. And then forgive. Colossians 3:12 through 14. Forgive. Forgive even if they don't ask for forgiveness, because sometimes they will never ask for forgiveness, right? Let me read that. Colossians 3. It's on page 1592 in my Bible. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against you, even as Christ forgave you, you must also do. But above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. Let's go ahead and read the next verse too. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which you were also called in one body. And be, what? Thankful. Yeah, that sums it all up, doesn't it? Right there. How we should act if we're going to be one body, if we're going to have peace. We've got to say we're sorry, and we have to forgive. We have to forgive. Remember, it doesn't put you in the wrong. It's just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. And also, can we practice forgiving people that are already gone? Can we do that? Can we practice just going ahead and forgiving them in our heart and not carrying bitterness around? People that have already passed that are not going to ask for forgiveness. Can we do that? Or people that are still here. Just forgive them. It's the right thing to do. Number 4, we have to bring others to Him. That's our mission. That's our goal. That's our purpose. We have to encourage other people, maintain good relationships. That takes work sometimes, doesn't it? It takes work. If you're the spiritually strong person in a relationship and you're trying to encourage others, you've got to work at it. They don't always reach out to you. You've got to reach out to them. Invite people into your home. Oh, my baseboards aren't clean. No one cares. No one cares. I remember years ago, I didn't have children yet, and I was a young married person, and I remember my friend who had 4 kids at the time invited me over for lunch. I will never forget. And so I got dressed up. I was going to her house. Her husband was a doctor. They lived in a very beautiful home. And the kids were always just looked perfect. So like I was like, whew, fix the hair, you know. So I get dolled up and I get to her door and she says, hey, and she is in sweatpants and a sweatshirt with spit up or something, I don't know what it was, and a dish rag over her shoulder. She's got a baby on the hip and no shoes, and she's like, come in. And I was like, this is the wrong day. This is the wrong day. And so I go in, and we sat on the, she moved over some clothes, and I sat on the couch, and she starts asking me questions about myself and is so excited that I'm there. And I was like, okay, maybe it's not the wrong day, or she's at least happy to see me, because my brain is just going. And she starts folding clothes, and so I just start folding clothes. And it was just towels, I think. And then a little while later, she's like, I'm getting hungry. Let's see what we've got. And she opens the refrigerator, and I think we had bologna sandwiches. To this day, which it's been 30 years, one of my favorite home visits ever. I love that time with her because you know what? She was concerned about me. And she wasn't concerned that all of her kids were running around. And one of them came out, naked from the waist down one time. It was not, it was just, that's what's life. Go on with life. Have people in your home. They don't care. They've got messy people in their life too. I loved it. And it taught me a good lesson. It taught me a really good lesson. Be a light. John 8:12. Be a light. Sometimes you're going to be the only light that people see that day. Just like that little lady in the blue car. That may be it. You might be the only kind person that somebody has. Be a light. Make it a point to. Be careful about your friendships. I touched on this a little earlier. You've got to be careful about who you surround yourself with, okay? Because you're going to act like who you surround yourself with, aren't you? That doesn't change just because we get a little bit older, right? Be careful about that. Bad company corrupts good morals. 1 Corinthians 15:33 talks about this. We've got to be so careful. And number 5, we have to be compassionate. We have to be compassionate. We got to understand that people are going through things, right? We're going through things, right? Everybody is. Be compassionate. Jesus was so good at being compassionate. And sometimes we don't want to be. Sometimes we're just kind of trying to manage cramps and hot flashes and whatever we've got. We don't want to be compassionate. I don't feel good. Women don't feel good a lot of times, do they? I'm compassionate about that because I know it. We've got to be careful about how we treat other people. And don't match vibes. Don't match vibes. If you don't know what that means if somebody's coming at you and they're up here, stay down here. Okay? If somebody's coming at you and they're speaking harshly or they've got some harsh words to say about you or somebody else, you stay low and you diffuse it. Because if you get up there, then it's not going to work. Don't match vibes, okay? And I know that sometimes we're not taught to be that way. It's like, if somebody's angry at you, you be angry too. No, don't. You can diffuse it, okay? Be rooted in love. Be rooted in love. Everything you do needs to be in love. Number 6, this is my last one. We have to remain faithful. And I love the story of King Nebuchadnezzar when he saw in the book of Daniel 3, when he saw the men come out of the fire, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. When he saw that happen, and he said, you're the servants of the Most High God. He saw their faithfulness, and I love that. Are we faithful in church, especially when it's not convenient? Are we faithful in our prayer life? Are we faithful in encouraging other people? And I'm going to give you a little time because I'm about to end. Take a minute that you have before things start up again and send somebody a text. Send somebody a text of encouragement. Do you know how long that takes? Send them 2 or 3 sentences. Haven't seen you in a while, or I missed you at church. Every time I see you, you always look so put together. I just appreciate you. I love your spirit. I'm giving you things you can say, right? You are such a light. You're such a good friend to me. I just need to tell you that. You don't know. And I think the Holy Spirit puts things on our heart that other people need. So if you have that urge, man, I really need to reach out to that person. Don't neglect that. Keep doing that kind of stuff, okay? Because I feel like that's God speaking to us, of course, through His Word, things that need to happen. We have to remain faithful if we're going to be one church and unified and walking in the light. We're all on the same path. We're walking in the light as He is in the light. And that blood of Jesus, 1 John tells us, keeps cleansing us. What a wonderful, wonderful thing, right? That we keep erring and doing wrong, and the blood of Jesus just keeps cleansing us. I think that this is something that is a daily walk. Remembering our purpose and bringing others to God. Thank you so much for listening so well. Thank you for your time, and know that you're loved.